And so, yeah, federal marijuana legalization bill amendment gets committee review ahead of its floor vote. Kyle Yeager out of the Marijuana Moment is reporting on that.
Yeah, I got a little too excited this morning. I thought it was the actual passing of or the MORE Act actually being heard, but it's just an amendment.
Yes, it is. It's just an amendment. And so, like, they're going to do a lot of different things in it. And then one filed amendment would have far-reaching implications of providing relief to people who have been denied security clearance over marijuana at any point in the last half century. Wouldn't that be nice? You know, if that little blight on history could be erased.
I had a chuckle about that one, dude, because as you know, I had a security clearance, and going into the military, right? It was I had dreadlocks back. I had hair back then.
You had hair?
And, I had hair, and I walked into first. I tried the easiest one, I thought, and that was going to be the Coast Guard. And I got turned around because I have asthma. And then I went to the Air Force because I thought it'd be easy. And I got turned around because I shoplifted as a kid. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to join the Navy. I'm going to tell them nothing happened. And of course, like I said, I had dreadlocks. And the guy's like, you ever smoke marijuana? And he's like, you ever? And he's like, 3 times, right? I'm like, yeah. All right, that sounds great. I've only done it 3 times in my life because, you know, that's how that works.
That's it. Only done marijuana 3 times in my life. You can still trust me. I deserve a security clearance.
Exactly. That's what happened. Eventually, I stuck to that number.
Yeah. Well, let's see here. There's some other stuff. There's going to develop and publish best practices for the recognition of testing of drivers who have been impacted by marijuana before any legalization could actually take effect, which stinks. It means we're going to legalize it, but with more studies. It's also going to require the National Institute for the Occupational Safety and Health, that's OSHA, to conduct a study on the impact of legalization for recreational cannabis by states on the workplace and develop best practices for use by employers that are transitioning their policies related to recreational cannabis. You know what is just ridiculous about all of this stuff? Meanwhile, opioid deaths have just skyrocketed to over 100,000. There was no policy change that we needed to do for, studies. We didn't have to do any of that crap. But that's the prejudice that we have when we talk about the plant we love.
And that's it, right? The opioid epidemic, you know, it's known source has been prescriptions, and yet the crackdown is not very good. But you know, the amendments, you know, they're not all bad, right? Like I think it's taking some cues from Schumer's thing, right? Develop and publish best practices for recognition of testing of drivers, you know, like things like the best practices. There is already an OSHA study on Farmer Tom. He was part of that.
Farmer Tom Larman.
Yeah, they did a study in his medical grow, and it was all about, like, you know, trimming, how you do, like, you know, you can get carpal tunnel from stuff like that. Like, it was all about your environmental impact on the body and stuff. And you know, do you wear a mask around the dangerous plant? Those terpenes, you know, going up your nose.
Oh, you got to watch out for those terpenes. You might sneeze. Let's see what else. Some of the other changes: impact legalization of recreational cannabis by states on schools and school-aged children, and more best practices would be developed. Maintain enhanced federal penalties for distributing more than 5 grams of marijuana to people under 21, and for distributing more than 5 grams of marijuana within 1,000 feet of a school, college, playground, or public housing authority, or within 100 feet of youth center or public swimming pool or arcade. So again, that's not legalization. It's not legalization at all. Now, what are the enhanced federal penalties for people selling beer to underage children, or selling beer within 1,000 feet of a school? Wait, do they even have restrictions as to setbacks from 1,000, or penalty enhancements for 1,000 feet from the school if you are caught, you know, selling liquor?
Then what is this shit here? Make it so immigrants could be deported for driving under the influence of marijuana? Like, that's the criminalization of the cannabis, right? Like, all of a sudden you're not good enough to be American. You're not good enough to be a citizen of this, you know, doing a legal thing, because it will be legal at that point.
Well, one of the things, references to marijuana or marijuana, that's how you really have to pronounce the H, under federal statute would be changed to cannabis. It's unclear if that would also apply to the title of the bill itself. That's cute, but isn't that really that's window dressing? I mean, if you're not actually going to change anything substantive, you're just virtue signaling and saying, like, well, we shouldn't call it a derisive term or a pejorative, designed to create confusion and prejudice. We should call it cannabis because that's what it is, but then everything else is still going to be a crime.
Well, yeah, and then so what I'm kind of a little upset about here is, you know, I'm pro MARAC because it takes cannabis off the CSA completely, but yet this dialogue here, it says permanently place fentanyl analogs in Schedule 1, but also streamline the research process for all drugs. Like, why are you bringing fentanyl into the cannabis conversation? Like, why is this even?
Well, I think opioid use would go down if cannabis use, especially medical cannabis use for the
100%.
treatment of pain, would go up. You know, and so the extent that they are trying to make it more difficult for people to get fentanyl, great. However, it doesn't. If you want to slake the thirst for all this fentanyl that's coming in from China or Mexico, get people something to get off of the opioids and give them safe access to that stuff.
Education, man, like the endocannabinoid system, like this cannabis can do, you know, it's the gateway exit drug, not the gateway entrance drug. It's the thing that helps you lean off things. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the gateway to wellness, not drug abuse and addiction, you know.
So what else
Crazy.
you got going on?
Hey guys, it's me, cannabis industry lawyer Tom Howard, and I'm here to talk about something that I've dealt with in my practice that I thought might be a good addition to our How to Cannabis segment, and that is most valuations that you see after or in the process of getting your license for what your actual license is worth are complete garbage. Absolute abject garbage, unless you're paying real coin to somebody who has created these pricing models specifically for numerous clients that are managing lots and lots of canopy. And then even then, I have not seen very much of that going on for the capital raising. When people are reaching out to try to acquire pieces of the license, very often they do not have math. Sometimes they'll say they have math. Fewer other times they'll actually show their math, and that's one of the things we like to help people with when we are discussing them over our firm Collateral Base, which you could reach by going to cannabisindustrylawyer.com and then filling out our form to see if you're qualified to get into the cannabis industry. And then we can explain how you can start to value what the licenses are actually worth based on terrible math. But it's one of the reasons why Cresco is where it's at, and also one of the reasons why they like the limited market, because one of the aspects of your valuations has to do with how steady your prices are. For example, commodities tend to boom and bust. So if oil is really high, you might expect Exxon to do really well. Similarly, if weed is really high, like in every single limited market that is out there, for example, Illinois, you might expect the operators, Cresco, for example, to do particularly well. But if the market forces stabilize because supply hits demand, well, why would you want to have that kind of pro forma when you could juice the numbers? Anyway, how can you tell what your cannabis company's worth? Well, we can work you through it and then go over what the reasonable EBITDA multipliers are for businesses that are of one stripe, or the top line revenue multiplier that you do for the retail locations.